what does a day on the internet look like? You've got viral, videos. You've got influencers that are posting content daily. There's, a movie or a TV show releases a trailer that drives 100 million views in the first couple days. You've got all this news and content that people are consuming, and it's all built on entertainment, right? It can't just be entertaining for a brand. Like, we need to be entertaining in the way that competes with all of the true entertainment that's on the platforms.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Marketing Matters on the Wharton Podcast Network. This is our weekly podcast where we analyze the latest in advertising, marketing, customer behavior, new product launches, branding, retailing, everything marketing. I'm Barbara Kahn, the Patty and J.H. Baker Professor of Marketing, and I'm joined by my co-host, Americus Reed, the Whitney M. Young Jr. Professor of Marketing, and the brand identity theorist. And today we are very happy to be joined by Greg Fass, who's the Vice President of Marketing at Liquid Death. I'm sure everybody knows Liquid Death now. Liquid Death is a company known for its edgy and unconventional approach to marketing bottled water and now some other products too. As VP of Marketing, Foss has played a pivotal role in shaping the brand's unique identity and driving its rapid growth in the beverage industry. His innovative strategies have helped Liquid Death stand out in a crowded market and make it a household name. Before Liquid Death, Foss was at MeUndies, which I would like to talk about as well, where he did a lot of brand growth there and customer engagement. And he has a business degree in marketing from our colleagues at USC.
Nice.
Hello, Greg, and welcome to the show. Not at USC. Did you say no? Where?
No, I don't know. You're mistaken about everything was right except for
Up
the
to
college.
USC. That's definitely what the internet said. So where did you actually go?
Oh yeah, no. I actually studied economics at University of Colorado in Boulder.
Oh, wow. Where did
Nice.
I get that? That's a whole different person. Well,
Yeah,
I'm glad you're at Colorado because that goes with your background in
yeah,
snowboarding, right? What kind
yeah,
of snow is in California? USC, nothing.
yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. I actually only took two marketing classes my entire college career. And it was
So
actually when
it's
I
not
studied
just
abroad.
Colorado versus California. You actually know nothing about marketing.
Well, I mean, I took two courses when I studied abroad in Australia. I took green marketing and internet marketing, and which are ended up being pretty valuable to me at Liquid Death. But other than that, no, I come in with a real outsider's perspective to marketing,
Yep.
which I think is something that's helped propel me in my career in these disruptive brands that I've been at, right? Now, I have learned by doing, for the most part. Do I wish that I had some more of the real education? Probably, but,
I mean, I think as an economist, Greg, that you certainly appreciate the idea of what's required to take something that could be characterized as a commodity like water and making it different, like Barbara's point. Like, how do you take something that lots of people can create and like put in a bottle or put in a can or whatever, and how can you stand out? So I'm sure that's not lost on you.
Yeah,
yeah,
and you
no, no.
obviously have what? Now, I'm not gonna trust the internet for any of this. How many years have you been working? Like, how many years were you at MeUndies before you came to and how many years are you at
Yeah, so it's funny, I've been at 2 commodity brands, for most of my career. Underwear and water are 2 very essential products, and so, yeah, I think maybe I have a type, but,
I don't know, I'm not sure a lot of people say water and underwear are a type, but okay, we'll go
from a
with
commodity perspective, from a necessity perspective, I think most people would
Yes.
agree they're necessities,
Yes. Hopefully.
but yeah, no, I was actually the second employee at MeUndies, and so I joined there, um, when there's really just 3 people in a room, and, it was a really, like, cut your teeth, type of experience right out of the gate for me, where I was leading all of our social. I was helping with print designs on the underwear,
Wow.
all of our earned media strategy and PR. And then I was also doing things on the operations side, like I answered every single customer service email and phone call and live
Mm.
chat that we got, right? And so I had a really broad range
I
of
bet you that was really good for market research, actually. I mean, I know what your point was, but actually having that interaction with your customers was probably really helpful.
Yeah,
yeah,
super
and
interesting.
honestly, it was the day-to-day interactions with customers where that's how I kind of honed in on the voice of the
Ah,
brand, right?
interesting,
Because I'm
interesting.
actually speaking to them and I'm like, oh, this is a really, personal way to talk about underwear, which hadn't really been a thing before, right? You were going to a department store and buying a package of underwear, and then you weren't really talking to anyone. Like you just kind of took it home, and however it fit and however it
Yeah,
was, like that was what it was. And so that started that helped kind of shape those customer service conversations
yeah,
early on,
yeah.
like help shape the brand voice and create this more
That's
approachable
interesting.
brand with MeUndies that kind of was encouraging people to talk about their underwear and have it not be the taboo thing that no one ever mentioned. And um, and yeah, I think, it's funny, Liquid Death and MeUndies are so different in so many ways, but they um they were really built on this like earned media and creative strategy placed on top of these necessity products, underwear or water, that people really need, but that there wasn't any fun being had in those areas, right? And so we really utilized earned media. How can we drive conversation, get people talking about their underwear to
So
compete with
before
the
you tell us about that specifically, I want to talk about Liquid Death in particular because
yeah.
it was started by Mike. Like you weren't the
Mhm.
founder, and the guy who started it was really into advertising, and he kind of had an out of the box way of thinking about marketing water. I mean, it was not just the idea of Liquid Death; it was also doing it in cans, as I understand. Like, was a
Right.
really big deal to move from bottle to cans, and that was part of the initial change. But you came to Liquid Death on December. Is this right? December 1st, 2020. Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
My birthday, so, like, I remember that date, like, that's a very good date to start a company, started a company. But I'm curious to know, like, what was it like when you got there? What was the expectation? Because it had been going on for a while, so what was your charge?
Yeah, so, the team was really small still at that point. I think I was like the 38th employee, I think, at the time. And it was a lot of that was operations and less on the marketing side of things. Mike, he's a creative advertising genius. He was writing the commercials, he was writing all the social captions, he was doing the posting on organic. You know, he was doing it all essentially from like a brand perspective, and then there was a team that was doing some of like the e-commerce work, because when I joined, we were not on shelf, right? We were really only in a couple
Oh,
independents
wow.
at the time. But all the yeah, the bulk of the sales were coming through liquiddeath.com, including the beverage, right? And so when I started, Mike and I talked about this at in probably my first touch base, which was, hey, we've got this amazing, hilarious brand. We have this really engaged core customer. How do we build this brand for the masses without losing the soul and like losing the humor and the edge that we had, right? And so that was kind of my directive, and it feels like 5 years has just flown by since that first conversation. Um, but yeah, it was how do we build this for the mainstream audience so that we could start to break into retailers, and then also how do we compete with the really big beverage brands out there that spend you know, billions on marketing and media, that we will never be able to compete with that type of media spend. So how do we gain the type of awareness that we need to compete with those big players without having to spend the money? And so that's where I brought in that earned media strategy, which Mike comes from a background of he was at CPB, right? He understands the power of creating marketing that's used to drive headlines and get people talking. So it wasn't new to him. I think that's what he admired about my experience at
Talking about Crispin Porter,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
which is like an incredibly creative advertising agency. They did all the amazing Burger King ads, I think.
Right. And so he was, he wanted to build the Liquid Death brand like, using earned media and using creative, and that's what I brought from MeUndies. I think that's what he was attracted to in me as a potential fit for the brand. So yeah, we just started building this editorial calendar of content, right? From the moment I got there. Hey, let's consistently put out something that has the ability to, win the internet the day that we launch it, right?
Hmm.
Let's launch something. Let's try to get
How can
ourselves on
you
a
have that
cadence.
as a that sounds like a great goal, but how do you accomplish that? Win the internet, like, that's that's kinda how do
Yeah.
you do that?
Well, I mean, I think you are distilling it like a lot of, brand campaigns, they're trying to do so many things, right? And I think for us, we were distilling it down into like one, short-term goal, which is, hey, can we just be the best thing someone sees on the internet that day, right? And if we can do that, right, then people will want to share it. People, press will want to write about it, and we'll be able to drive as much, awareness and exposure to the brand that these massive, the Cokes and Pepsis of the world were having to pay all that money to get in front of, right? So that was the strategy, right? Like use our creative and our ability to move fast and not behave like a big traditional brand to
But the
to
thing is, I just have to, like, win the internet, like, I would like to do that too, but I don't know how to do that. Like, that I don't how do you know how to do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it comes from first like getting out of just like being a brand and just understanding what are people consuming on the internet, right? Like what does a day on the internet look like? You've got viral, videos, home videos that come out. You've got influencers that are posting content daily. There's, a movie or a TV show releases a trailer that drives 100 million views in the first couple days. You've got all this news and content that people are consuming, and it's all built on entertainment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think as soon as a brand, for us, we always said, hey, like we can't just be entertaining for a brand. Like we need to be entertaining in the way that competes with all of the true entertainment that's on the platforms. And if we can meet people where they are and give them something that they're actually on social for, then we have a really good chance of getting there. And then yeah, I think as far as like how it comes together, I mean, we are we have this concept of 360 comedy, right? Where Americus, I don't know if you've heard us talk about that before, but this idea
Yes.
of 360 comedy is like it's not just a funny commercial, right?
Yes. Right.
Uh, it's this really funny shareable piece of content that actually ties
Yes.
back to a real product or an experience that people can buy into, go
Yes.
experience in person, right? And it's making something real, right, that feels like it should be fake. That's where I think that's where we've kind of cracked the code with how the internet, right? It's getting people to stop in their tracks when they're scrolling and be like, "Wait, I've never seen anything like this before. Is this real?"
Yes.
And then to find out it is, right? That's where
Yeah.
we really hit that magic. And I think that's something that, the reason we're able to do that as a brand is because when Mike started this thing, the product itself was that 360 comedy, right? Like the can really is a piece of true contemporary art in that there should have never been a water called Liquid Death that looks like a beer, right? That feels like a fake gag product. It feels like an SNL skit, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
then you can actually buy it and you can actually go find it on the shelves. And so now we're doing the same thing over and over again, but with new unexpected partners and new ideas and new limited edition products that you would never think of, right? And it all started with the can that Mike came up with that
Yeah. Yeah.
gives us the ability to go and do that.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that point because it's making me think a little bit, Barbara, of Andy Warhol. And, you know,
And then Campbell soup can?
that is
yeah,
a that is
the
quite the
iconic symbol, ladies and gentlemen, the iconic symbol. But I want to touch base and build a little bit deeper on what Barbara mentioned, though, because she actually pointed something that's very interesting here, which is the potential difficulty in replicating this over and over and over again. Like, you got to be super creative. I think that's her point. Say, listen, you can't just come out here and just like, okay, we're going to just copy some memes and like do something like that. You have to be sort of like the thought leader in creating this type of stuff. And so I'm thinking that if that's the premise, that must mean that you have to hire people that all share a kind of creative impetus to be able to plug into this energy to create this kind of
Like a
collateral day
writer's
in and day
table
out.
on a
Yeah, I could literally see that. Like, we're all going over the conversation. What did anybody see that was interesting today on the internet and talking it out and like trying to come up with something? Is that a little bit how the creative process unfolds, or is it somehow different?
Um, it's actually a bit different than that because I think like we're not
good
trying to
idea.
we're actually I mean, yeah, you're right for part of it, but in practice it's a little different than that because we're not just looking at what's being posted on the internet day to day to try to pull inspiration because then it won't feel truly unexpected, right? Like
Gotcha. Hmm.
we know as consumers of the internet, yes, like we are influenced by that. We can see really funny things. That gives us the reminder that like we have a high bar to hit, but we're not
Hmm.
using that content to influence our own necessarily. We're actually pulling from, and this goes back to like Mike's founding roots of the brand. We're actually pulling from this feeling that like most people actually hate marketing, right? And you guys are marketers. You teach it as well, and it's funny. It's like there's this distrust from a lot of people, in the general public of corporate marketing. And so what we have done is we found, we take inspiration if it's from any content. It's from the most common advertising tropes, right? That exist that we've seen in ads, and then we kind of flip those on its head, right? And the people and the team that we use to do that, they're not traditional advertisers, right? They're
Uh,
not advertising professionals necessarily, right? Yes, Mike came from that world,
yeah.
and our VP of creative also came from that world, but the entire team, they do like a writer's room the same way that you would
Yep.
do on SNL.
Yep.
And the people that are in that room that work for Liquid Death, they don't come from these traditional advertising backgrounds. And so they're coming at it from a lens of real entertainment. There's, our creative director, uh, he is the creator and writer of an Adult Swim cartoon called Mr. Pickles that was super successful, right? And most brands
Mm-hmm.
would
Yeah.
never touch with a 10-foot pole, right? He's in
Right.
the room coming up with content.
Right.
One of our lead copywriters, grew up touring in a punk band and wrote for The Onion, right? So like these are the
Nice.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting.
and then we've got this network of comedians that we also tap into for all sorts of things, punch ups, ideas. They'll come into the room with us and talk through how we can win the internet, right? And I think when you have people like that who don't have the background of marketing to kind of box them in, it allows these types of
Well,
ideas.
you are stating a hypothesis, which is the way to win the internet is to be funny. So that seems to be a core tenet of
Yeah,
that it's humor.
humor is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And also, it's really interesting, Barbara, and Greg, because tell me if this is true or not. Because you mentioned this word mistrust. Is humor a way to kind of smooth over what might be kind of this latent fatigue of marketing is, manipulative, and like we don't want to see it. It sucks. They're selling us stuff. And the way that you can kind of overcome that mistrust is like you be really funny and authentic, but authentically funny, and then people feel good again, and then they're sort of like open to be entertained more and open to sort of get the message about the brand and so on. Is that part of what's going on here?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, I think if you think about social, right? Because that's the platform for all of this for us, is, you know, the way most people are on social is they're scrolling through, they're finding things that they find really entertaining, and then when they find something really great, they share it with their friends. They DM it to them. They're sharing it to their story, right? Because they want to show their own personal community something really funny that they found, and it's a reflection of them as a human being to make their friends laugh with this thing that they found, right? It is a feedback loop, right, that
Yeah.
comes from sharing.
Yeah.
And
Reflection
so
of them as a human being. I'll double click on that, Barbara, but you know where I'm going. But anyway, please continue, Greg.
and so and so
Yes.
and so for us, we realize that's how a lot of this behavior is going, right? And so hey, if we can put out something that is truly funny on social, then and we can get someone to actually want to share our branded content with their friends because they want to show, hey, look at this really funny thing that I found that I think is funny, and it's a reflection of them, that can actually make this travel, right? And so that really is the core. It's the core engagement metric that we look at for everything, is like, what is the share rate out of all the people that have watched this? How many of them have actually shared it with their friend or reposted it, right? And that's what's most important here, and that's the metric that we look at, because it's what causes that exponential awareness that we've been able to drive. And we've used the power of internet humor and these funny,
And
hilarious
social
pieces of
proof, like
content
Jonah
to,
Berger would call that social proof, because you want to
Right.
what
So
you
would
said.
Robert Cialdini as well.
Yeah, you want to get credit for the funny thing. So you see something funny and you want to share
right,
it.
exactly. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's part of human nature. It's why social works this way, and we've figured that out, and we've tapped into it to the point where those shares over the course of a 5-year span exponentially have led Liquid Death to have, some of the same levels of unaided brand awareness as some of the biggest beverage brands out
Well,
there
let's
that have.
talk about some of your new campaigns. Maybe you could walk us through it. So, like, there is one you're doing recently with the boys, I think, and Vice President Ashley Barrett. Is
Yeah.
that one? Yeah. So, why don't you just like give us an example how this came about, what the story is behind this one?
So the boys is actually one of our longest standing partnerships. We try to keep things unexpected at Liquid Death, as you know, and so going back to the same partners multiple times has been, not something like we've done it very rarely, right? But with the boys, it's kind of the perfect entertainment partner for us, because they have this world that they've built that, is obviously a fantasy world. There's superheroes that exist, but it's modeled after our own society in a really interesting way. And because our core product is this, art piece in itself that feels like it shouldn't really exist in our world here. It can for sure
Ah,
exist in the boys world, right? In a way that most other brands wouldn't. And
interesting.
and
Interesting.
plus there's the fact that, the boys is, if you've ever watched it, I don't know if you guys have watched the show. It's gory, it's, it's over the top in that
Yeah.
regard, and
Yes.
they, we are a brand that's not afraid to work with properties like that, right? And so, um because they've had this like kind of parody of our world, we can make jokes that make fun of advertising through their characters and through their superheroes, right?
That's
And
interesting.
so it's actually it's the one of the more brilliant things that we've done here, because we can make an ad that is like a traditional ad, right? Like she's doing a walk and talk of our new sparkling energy line,
Oh,
right?
well done,
Which,
sir.
yeah.
Well played.
And she's doing this walk and talk where she's just talking about, the product attributes, right, in a way that um many brands have done before, but she is doing it from the place of a vice president, right? Who is now doing this like government sponsored ad for a product. And because of that, it's built into the entertainment. And so
Yeah.
we're able to disguise like this amazing product ad as entertainment. And I think that's where the beauty has come from these boys commercials that we've done. We did another one for a flavored sparkling a couple of years ago with one of their other characters, the Deep. And then a year or two before that, we did one for our main mountain water product with the Deep. And so yeah, it's been a really great way for us to, flex our creative brains and make something that feels like bonus content to the show that the fans really love. But then all
Mm.
those fans now know that
Oh.
our energy drink has 100 milligrams of caffeine. It's more sensible. It's not going to explode your head, or it might not explode your head, right? And I think that's the beauty of what we're
That's an
doing with
interesting
them.
thing because when you were promoting water in the beginning, you didn't have to explain that to anybody. People know what water is. Now you're moving to a different product where actually it has other attributes. Like water has no attributes. So you can spend the whole time on packaging and crazy ads and stuff. But your goal now is twofold, right? Because you do want to still win the internet because that's your whole marketing.
Hmm.
That's the way you do it. But now you have these attributes you have to build into the story. It's adding another constraint that's kind
Yeah,
of interesting.
it's another constraint, but it also is like, I don't know. We use we use all of these things as just another like tool or lever. It's like once you have this idea of 100 milligrams, it's like, oh, it won't explode your head, and then you can create something off of that idea, right? So we're always
Yeah.
using this type of logic,
Yeah.
and we work it into something really entertaining. And as long as it's not, as long as it doesn't feel like something you've seen before, right? As long as there's still tension, and as long as you still have a great hook in the first 3 to 5 seconds of that piece of content that gets people to say, wait, what is this? What am I
Mm-hmm.
about to see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can talk about product attributes in a way that is still really shareable and funny. And
Yeah.
when you look at this boys commercial, we're talking about attributes the whole time, and it's got almost 20,000 shares
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
just
that
a few
isn't.
days, right? And
Yeah.
it's
Yep. Yep.
find another commercial that has that type of
Yeah.
shareability,
Yeah, and to build on that point as well, I think there is a premise that says as you are delivering information about the product attributes, as Barbara's saying, levels of, caffeine, et cetera, because the person is so highly entertained, they're processing that information in a really different way as
Right.
compared to if they felt like they walked in and said, okay, here comes an ad,
Yeah.
right?
Your defenses would be up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really fascinating. There's all kinds of psychology going on here. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, we're when we were when we were really focused on water, it was never about what was in the can, right?
Mm.
Yeah,
It
'cause it's
was
water.
it was all an emotional connection, right?
Yep. Yep.
But there were rational reasons why people were buying it. It's an infinitely recyclable can, right? We're bringing
Yes.
death to plastic bottles.
Yes.
It comes from a real mountain source. It's not just purified tap water like a lot of other brands out there. Um, and so, there are these rational things, and I think there's more rational reasons why our energy is a better for you option than a lot
Interesting.
of the other things on the market, but we still need to lead with that emotional
Mm-hmm.
connection, right? And so
Interesting.
as long as we can lead with emotional and have the rational the rational
Yeah.
purchase reasons to believe underneath, that's the key for us.
This is awesome. So real quick, I'm sorry, Barbara. Just one quick thing.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
apologies, because
No, go
Barbara's running the show here. Uh, we do a check-in with all of our marketing guests to see what their point of view is with respect to bringing in these AI tools into the internal process of marketing. I'm wondering, what's your point of view? What's Liquid Death's point of view? Are they? We don't touch that stuff because that's making stuff up. We're too creative. We want to make it real. We want to develop it. We'll never touch the AI stuff. Or what's your point of view on using these kinds of tools internally?
Yeah, I mean, personally, at least, I do use these tools to make my life easier when it comes to like analyzing large sets of social content data, right? Things like that would normally take me hours can now run in the background, and then I can review the findings, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think and that I find to be very, very useful, and it's a really great research tool for me. And we've, on the creative side, we've experimented with it here and there, but
Ah,
I think
interesting.
for us, like we love the art, right? That goes into the stuff that we're making. And, we are going to continue to be, human made in that sense. Because I think there's a level of nuance to all the amazing work that we're doing on the creative side that I think does not translate well from the world of AI. But yeah, as a testing tool, as a research tool, I find it very, very helpful.
I was hoping for that answer, weren't you,
Me too. I was praying for that answer. Yes.
And I think we actually, from our side, I think if there's a way to use it for comedy's sake, right, or to make fun of it, right, like we're always trying
Mm.
Oh, yeah, it's a running
Ah,
joke,
outsider's
yeah,
point of view,
yeah.
right? So
That
so
would be really funny,
that would
actually.
be really funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I won't say that we would never use I won't say that we would never use it, right? It's just we haven't like
Figured out the funny way to use it, the humorous
Yeah,
way
yeah.
to use it.
Yeah, use it in a way to make fun of it. That would be
Yeah,
really
that would be
incredible.
great,
That's
yeah.
yeah.
awesome.
Well, you know what? We're out of time here, and we really loved having you on the show. So where can people go to find out I know well, there's another campaign we didn't get to talk about. You have some kind of Pop-Tarts campaign that
Oh
sounds
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
another product that feels like it shouldn't exist, but it does.
yeah, exactly.
It's
And that's a good collaboration. So where
yeah.
can our listeners go to find out more about some of the fun things you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think LinkedIn. I'm always sharing all of our recent campaigns on LinkedIn. You can follow the brand on Instagram and TikTok.
Nice.
Definitely is the best place to find everything that we're doing. And then yeah, keep an eye out for us on the shelf at your local grocery stores or convenience stores. And yeah, we're always coming out with new interesting limited edition flavors. So just keep an eye out for what's
Oh,
new out there.
Love
And
that. Love it.
yeah,
that's
that would be a great way to keep up with it. But um,
okay.
yeah.
Well, Greg Foss, Vice President of Marketing at Liquid Death, thank you so much for joining us today. And that's all we have time for. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. Till then, this has been Marketing Matters on the Wharton Podcast Network. I'm Barbara Kahn here with Americus Reed.